Hey guys, welcome back to Bad Movie Night, another edition on the Untitled Cinema Night channel. And we are just tuning into Giuliano Carnimeo's The Case of the Bloody Iris from 1972.
Getting a little sleazier tonight.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten too sleazy yet with our selection of movies, but this is, I guess, diving in.
It's a little bit. It's not like, what's that one we watched?
Delirium?
Delirium. It's not quite like there.
No, it's not that extreme, but there is a little bit.
Or Black Candles with the bestiality and stuff. There's none of that in this movie.
Man,
but it's definitely a bit more exploitative than the other movies we watched.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's it about?
The Case of the Bloody Iris follows our main character, Jennifer. She and her friend move into a high-rise apartment, and as it turns out, the previous tenant was murdered. And as it turns out from that, there is a crazy killer on the loose, murdering all the women in this apartment building. And then Jennifer has her own demons with her ex-husband from the cult of love. As if that wasn't enough. But this movie is crazy. Crazy. It has everything.
Cult of love.
I guess that's what they call it.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
A love
that was
cult?
Something interesting.
Free love cult?
Yeah. So this movie is okay. I enjoyed it. The sleaziness, it was fun, I guess. Like the kills actually were really pretty violent and sometimes really clever in this movie that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, that was nice, and I think the kills are probably the best highlight, and some of the camera work was pretty nice.
Some of the camera work is really cool in this movie. I think if it didn't have those little like stylish flares, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. But there's so many scenes where the camera is just like so active and involved in the scene that it's hard not to be like pulled in, even if it is sort of like in nowadays terms like kind of a mundane, slower movie than what your typical horror movie would be. But like there's a particular scene where he goes to get in his car and the camera like flips on its side, and then when it comes back the guy is there as well. Like that was just really clever.
That was cool.
And it's so like you could spend $10 million putting in a green screen background and have all this interesting crap, but like at the end of the day, like just a cool camera trick is like so much more powerful to me.
Yeah, definitely. And they did the same thing with their use of zooms. The zooms were amazing.
Yes.
Like the quick zoom ins, the sequencing.
Yeah, they would like zoom in and then they would cut back to something and then they'd zoom in even further to like their facial reactions and stuff.
Yeah, it was really great camera work.
That stuff was really cool. The lighting, I think for the most part was it was in the background, but there was a few scenes where it like highlighted people's eyes and stuff. So it still was very competently made movie. But for me, like those sleazier elements come through and kind of distract. And there's a couple other things that really distract from this movie for me. And so I was like kind of confused by the end, even though I really enjoyed the end. So anyways, you talk. What'd you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. There was I kept noticing this interesting switch or juxtapose in tone. Like there would be sequences, for instance, where Jennifer's running and terrified from the killer, and then she like runs into the apartment and runs into like a friend, and they just start chatting like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
like in the last 10 minutes.
It's harsh, and it's absurd the way characters react to things.
Yeah, and some of the dialogue even is kind of like weird in that sense.
Yes, I watched the dubbed versions.
Yeah, me too. I don't know.
But and we're probably gonna get into spoilers here, but that particular scene I think that you're talking about is like she's running away and she gets like attacked and her shirt's ripped off. And she like goes into somebody's apartment, and the lady like automatically starts like having a conversation with her.
Just like right in.
Completely normal, and it feels very awkward because that's not how a normal person would react.
Yeah, the same thing like where she's in the junkyard on the street running, and she runs into like the apartment building lobby, and then they both characters just like are relieved and like
it's like no like tension's done.
Yeah, there's no transition of like emotion. It's just like it's like they shot another scene. It was not made to be cut here or something.
Right. It was weird. It definitely feels like a weird edit.
Those shirt ripping off scenes, by the way, there were quite a few. Like, anytime they could throw one in, they threw it in. It was a little ridiculous.
Well, I think that sort of ties into some of the theme of the movie. We'll get to the end, because I think it's really interesting concept. But for me, and this is spoilers, what was really weird is there's two very large red herrings in this movie that feel out of place, especially by the end. We already mentioned the weird love sex cult.
Yeah.
And whatever, if you're into that, that's cool. I'd be into that probably. I don't know. I don't think I'm allowed to, but if I was, that'd be cool. But it's so weird and out of place.
Yeah. I guess the point is, like, she's supposed to have, like, some, like, trauma from that. And that's why, like, or that was was that the attempt?
To me, the movie is all about men, and they feel as though they possess these women. The women are their possessions. And especially, I think it's all played up throughout the theme of the movie, because, for one, these women are just models. Yeah. And you have, like, they're just kind of working for the camera. They're supposed to be pleasing and selling. You have you know, her, she's part of this sex cult, and she's kind of, like, not interested in it too much. She seemed to have been in love with her husband, but her husband gives away her body to these other men. Yeah. Which she doesn't seem to be wanting any part of, and that's why she leaves. And then the very end of the movie, what we come to learn is, you know, this guy is murdering people because he feels as though these models have influenced his daughter to become a lesbian. So it's like, which is like kind of an interesting concept, and it's not one maybe nowadays that you would tread lightly on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess 40 years ago is more leeway.
Right. So, but to me, like, on paper, that's like a really interesting idea to explore. But I feel like if you're gonna explore that idea, you should really have something to say. Yeah. Yeah. And in the end, it wasn't really like, oh, he's a crazy killer, but like, I didn't get a message about it, because to me, like, that's supposed to be like a gross thing. But the way they paint up, like, there's cops in this movie, and they kind of like patronize her. Yeah, the cops are just as bad. Like, they say like really misogynistic things, like jokingly all the time. Yeah, it's like most of the people do. And so when it all ended, I'm like, okay, that's an interesting concept, but you didn't comment on it. You're just kind of like accepting the fact, and that's a reason why he kills people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it is, you know, 40 some years ago, so it's not as like socially conscious, I guess. But in today's light, like, that's cool. I would like to see that explored, but I do want that interesting message as well, because, yeah, you can't just like, you need to have some kind of point to get across. I think it would make a more interesting story for sure. The other thing that is really throws you off in this movie, and I still don't understand it, is one of our main protagonists, the guy who, I don't even remember what his name is, but we learn early on he's one of the main characters that he can't deal with blood. The sight of blood. The real estate mogul. Yeah. And in the end, he saves the day, and it's like this weird flashback to a kid in a car, and I was like, wait, am I supposed to be? Yeah, I guess. And then it took... That was weird, because, like, I guess they're justifying the weird reason why he's scared of blood, but I thought it was going to be, like, an inside look into him being, like, a killer or some kind of deep. Because it's like, why would you throw that in? So why just, like, they justified his fear for blood, but that aspect plays absolutely no role in this movie. It's no purpose. It's not referenced at all for his character. Like, right, so what was the point? It would have made sense maybe if they threw it in earlier when that first happened, when he had the nosebleed, and then there was, like, some outcome with that, but there wasn't. The ending of the movie is really very tense, because the fight sequence, which I was kind of not expecting, I was on the edge of my seat, kind of. It was an interesting scenario. I like the editing of that scene too. Like, when he fell and hit the ground really hard, there's some really great cuts. I don't cut that together. They like lined it up so like his hand hit right in front of the camera. It looked really good, and you see like the blood start streaming out. Yeah, there were some really good cuts and edits in this, despite some of the other flaws with it. It's kind of a fun movie. It's got some other issues with some of the way it deals with, let's just say, race relations back in, like, there's not some... You mean the strong female black character that beats up men in clubs? It's like, what? Yeah,
Did that really happen? Did they? I don't think so.
I don't know. It was awkward, but
I did like her character though. I mean, the actress. She was really good.
yeah, I liked most of the acting in this movie as well. It's hard to say though, because like the dubbing is so over the top sometimes.
I know.
But I thought like the reactions and everything seemed pretty interesting. I don't know if I like the music.
It's like Bond music.
Yeah, there's like this weird like upbeat like poppy thing.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work for me because
that was the only track I liked.
really it just didn't. Well, that was like the only memorable one. Too,
I know. I think that's the problem.
But it didn't really like set much of a tone for me. It just kind of like, awkward.
Yeah.
It's just there's like 2 kills in this movie that take place in broad daylight and like nobody reacts to it.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the one on the street was pretty like low key, you know.
Yeah.
The elevator. I thought the first kill in the beginning at the elevator was pretty interesting. Like that's an interesting concept. Like he's on the elevator with her. Yeah.
Yeah, the case of the bloody iris. It's interesting. The surprise at the end is definitely not what I was expecting, but I went back and watched it a second time, and I do like the little hints they throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, for me, it all plays on knowing that Sheila girl, who's like this secondary character that you only see a few times in the movie, is a lesbian.
Yeah, which I didn't pick up at for quite a while.
So when I watched it the second time, knowing that when we first are introduced to her, it's when she, our main character, escapes and runs into her apartment. We said the awkward conversation there, but she comments about how beautiful she is, and she like looks longingly at her, and then as she's like hugging her, the father walks in, and it gets awkward.
Yeah, and I think also
like,
there were hints about the phone calls at the beginning and the end of the movie.
Yes.
Which I was kind of confused by the one at the end. Like, was she calling up to her again? Was her character as a lesbian also like a sex worker? Like,
I wasn't sure either.
Yeah.
The cops do mention at one point they're talking to her, and he mentions like, I think you're playing for the wrong team. You should try someone of my gender or something at some point. So I was like, okay, yeah, she's definitely a lesbian.
Yeah. But it took a while to pick that up.
Yeah. So like, and it's weird that like the whole twist hinges on the fact that we know the secondary characters like sexual proclivities, and the fact that her dad is mad about that. And that's like, you're never gonna see that coming.
I know, it's crazy.
It's kind of fun.
It had its moments though. Like I just thought that some of it was pretty absurd. Like the sex cult was kind of absurd. The crazy husband leaving bloody irises and just like stalking her the whole time.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the point, to throw the audience. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'd tentatively recommend it. It's not bad. It's
decent. Yeah, it's not bad, and like I guess people consider this a classic on like the sleazy end of the genre. So
it's more highbrow for a sleazy one.
Yeah, and I think also we've already seen some like really sleazy ones, like Delirium, like you mentioned. Isabel was another one that was like super sleazy. So I think we've already seen like some of the extremes of the spectrum. So maybe this was considered somewhat sleazy at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. So I think we're gonna recommend The Case of the Bloody Iris.
Yeah, it was a fun movie. It was interesting. Definitely sleazier, but still had its moments. It's not like a complete sleaze fest where it's just about complete exploitation. There's still a lot of creative merit to this movie, I think.
Yeah.
So, Curse of the Bloody Iris. Next week we're gonna check out
Kill Baby Kill by Mario Bava, which I think is a little outside of what we've been discussing genre-wise, but should be interesting.
Okay, I've never seen it, so sounds good to me.
Cool.
All right, we'll see you here next week. Bye.
See ya.